a gun pressed against her skull. Blood pooled at her feet, and across the warehouse floor her husband stood motionless, watching her like a stranger deciding whether she deserved to live. Ruth Calder didn't beg. She never would. "You should have killed me when you had the chance," she whispered. But this war didn't start here. It started with a phone call 3 months ago, and a man she thought she'd buried in her past. If you're ready for a story about survival, betrayal, and a woman who refused to break, stay until the end. Like this video, comment what city you're watching from, and let's see how far Ruth's story can travel. The call came at 2:47 a.m. Ruth's phone buzzed against the nightstand, rattling the empty coffee mug she'd forgotten to wash. She didn't move at first. Late-night calls meant trouble. Collection agencies, spam, or her landlord asking why rent was 5 days overdue. She rolled over, pressed her face into the pillow, and waited for it to stop. It didn't. By the fourth ring, her stomach twisted. She grabbed the phone without looking at the screen. "Hello?" Static crackled on the other end. Then a voice, low, careful, and terrified. "Ruthie." Her father. She sat up so fast the room spun. "Dad, what's wrong?" "I need you to listen." His breathing was shallow, uneven. "Don't interrupt. Don't ask questions. Just listen." Her pulse hammered in her ears. "Are you hurt?" "Ruthie, where are you?" "Listen." His voice cracked. She heard something in the background, a door slamming, footsteps, muffled voices. He lowered his tone, almost whispering now. "I made a mistake. A bad one. And now, they're coming for me." Ruth's throat tightened. "Who?" "People I owe money to. A lot of money." He paused. She could hear him swallow. "I tried to fix it. I tried to pay them back, but I couldn't. How much?" Silence. "Dad, how much?" 2 million. The number didn't land at first. It hovered in the air like smoke, shapeless and unreal. 2 million. Her father worked at a small accounting firm. He drove a 15-year-old sedan. He clipped coupons. "What did you do?" she breathed. "It doesn't matter." His voice hardened, defensive. "What matters is they gave me 72 hours. If I don't pay, they'll kill me." Ruth's hands shook. She gripped the phone tighter, pressing it against her ear until it hurt. "We'll figure it out. We'll go to the police." "No police." He said it so sharply she flinched. "These aren't people you run from, Ruthie. They own half the city. They are the law." "Then what do you want me to do?" Her voice rose, cracking. "I don't have $2 million. I barely have 200. Another pause. Longer, this time. "They offered me a deal." Something cold slid down her spine. "What kind of deal?" "They'll forgive the debt." He spoke quickly now, like he was trying to get it out before he lost his nerve. "All of it, clean slate, but there's a condition." Ruth closed her eyes. "What condition?" "You have to marry someone." The words didn't make sense. She laughed, a short, bitter sound that felt wrong in her throat. "Marry someone? Dad, what the hell are you talking about?" "The heir. The son of the man I owe. They want a marriage alliance, legitimacy. You marry him, the debt disappears." Her stomach dropped. "You're joking." "I wish I was." "You want me to marry a stranger to save your ass?" "I'm not asking you to do anything." His voice was hollow now, defeated. "I'm just telling you what they said. The choice is yours." The choice. As if there was one. Ruth stared at the wall, her mind spinning. She thought of her father, graying hair, tired eyes, the way he used to make her breakfast before school, even when he could barely stand. He wasn't perfect. He drank too much. He made bad bets. He lied about money. But he was all she had. "When?" she whispered. 72 hours. "And if I say no?" Silence. She already knew the answer. Ruth hung up without saying goodbye. She didn't sleep. By the time the sun rose, she'd called her father 6 times. He didn't answer. She paced her apartment, 300 square feet of peeling paint and broken blinds, trying to think of a way out. There wasn't one. At 9 a.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. "Miss Calder." The voice was smooth, polite, and utterly devoid of warmth. "My name is Victor Lau. I represent the Juno family. I believe your father explained the situation." Ruth's jaw tightened. "He did?" Good. Then you understand the terms. I understand you're blackmailing me. Victor chuckled, soft, almost amused. I prefer to call it a mutually beneficial arrangement. Your father's debt is erased. You gain financial security, and the Juno family solidifies an important alliance. Everyone wins. Except me. That depends on your perspective. Ruth dug her nails into her palm. Who am I supposed to marry? Kyle Juno, the eldest son. He'll be your husband in name and legal standing. Beyond that, the relationship is flexible. Flexible. You'll live in the family estate. You'll attend public events as his wife. What happens behind closed doors is between you and him. Her stomach churned. And if I refuse, then your father dies. Victor said it so casually, like he was discussing the weather. Probably within the next 48 hours. They'll make it look like an accident, a fall, a heart attack. These things happen. Ruth's vision blurred. She blinked hard, forcing the tears back. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow morning. A car will arrive at your apartment at 10 a.m. If you get in, we proceed. If you don't, he trailed off. Well, I'm sure you can imagine. The line went dead. Bah, Ruth didn't tell anyone. She went through the motions, showered, dressed, walked to the small translation agency where she worked freelance. She sat at her desk, staring at a contract written in Mandarin, and couldn't read a single word. Her coworker, Jenny, leaned over the partition. You okay? You look like hell. Ruth forced a smile. Didn't sleep. Deadline? Something like that. Jenny studied her for a moment, then shrugged. Well, don't burn out. You're the only one here who can actually translate legal docs without screwing them up. Ruth nodded absently. Jenny left. The office was quiet. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Outside, the city hummed, cars honking, people shouting, life continuing like nothing had changed. But everything had. She thought about running, grabbing her father and disappearing. But where would they go? These people, whoever they were, had reach, money, power. If they wanted to find her, they would. She thought about fighting, going to the police, the media, anyone who might listen. But her father's words echoed in her head. They own half the city. They are the law. She thought about her father, the way he'd sounded on the phone, broken, ashamed, desperate. And she thought about herself, 26 years old, alone, barely scraping by. What did she have to lose? Key. The car arrived at 9:58 a.m. Ruth stood at her window, watching it idle on the street below. Black, expensive, tinted windows. Her suitcase sat by the door. She'd packed light, clothes, toiletries, her laptop. Everything else could stay. She picked up her phone, dialed her father's number one last time. He answered on the first ring. Ruthie, I'm doing it. Her voice was flat, emotionless. I'm getting in the car. You don't have to. Yes, I do. She cut him off. And you know it. A long pause. I'm sorry. His voice broke. I'm so sorry. Ruth closed her eyes. I know. She hung up, grabbed her suitcase, walked out the door. Bombs. The driver didn't speak. He opened the door. She climbed in. The car pulled away from the curb, merging into traffic. Ruth stared out the window, watching her neighborhood disappear. The cramped apartments, the corner store where she bought instant noodles, the bus stop where she waited every morning. Gone. They drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city center behind. The streets grew wider, cleaner. High walls appeared, topped with cameras and iron spikes. Mansions peeked through thick trees. The car turned onto a private road. At the end sat a house. No, an estate. 3 stories. White stone. Sprawling gardens. It looked like something out of a magazine. Cold. Perfect. Untouchable. The car stopped. The driver opened her door. Ruth stepped out, gripping her suitcase. The air smelled like cut grass and money. A man waited at the entrance. Older. Silver hair. Expensive suit. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Miss Calder, welcome. I'm Victor Lau. She didn't shake his hand. He gestured toward the house. If you'll follow me. They walked through the front doors into a foyer that could have swallowed her entire apartment. Marble floors. Crystal chandeliers, paintings that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 years. Victor led her down a hallway, up a staircase, through another hallway. She lost track of the turns. Finally, he stopped in front of a door. Your room. You'll stay here until the ceremony. When is it? Tomorrow evening. Her chest tightened. That fast? The family prefers efficiency. He handed her a key. Someone will bring you dinner. If you need anything, dial 0 on the phone. He turned to leave. Wait. Ruth's voice stopped him. When do I meet him? Victor glanced back. Who? Kael, my fiancé. Something flickered across his face. Pity, maybe, or amusement. Soon enough. He left. Ruth stood alone in the hallway. She unlocked the door, stepped inside. The room was huge. King-sized bed, marble bathroom, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. It felt like a cage. She dropped her suitcase, sat on the edge of the bed, stared at her hands. Tomorrow, she'd marry a stranger, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. Dinner came at 7. A maid wheeled in a cart, roasted chicken, vegetables, wine. Ruth picked at it, her stomach too knotted to eat. She tried to sleep. Couldn't. At midnight, she gave up, pulled on a sweater, and slipped into the hallway. The house was silent. Dark. She moved carefully, trailing her hand along the wall, following the faint glow of emergency lights. She didn't know where she was going, didn't care. She just needed to move. She found herself in a library. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, leather chairs, a fireplace that probably hadn't been used in years, and a man standing by the window. He turned when she entered. Ruth froze. He was tall, dark hair, sharp features. He wore a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and studied her with the kind of calm that made her skin crawl. You're early, he said. His voice was low, measured, familiar. Ruth's breath caught. No, it couldn't be. Kael? She whispered. He tilted his head. You remember? Her pulse roared in her ears. She did remember. 15 years ago. High school. A boy 2 years older who made her life hell, tripping her in hallways, spreading rumors, laughing while his friends cornered her after class. Kael Juno. The same boy who'd humiliated her so badly she'd switched schools. And now... You're kidding. The words came out choked, furious. You're him? He didn't answer, just watched her with that same unreadable expression. Ruth's hands balled into fists. Did you know when they set this up? Did you know it was me? A pause. Yes. The air left her lungs. You knew. Her voice shook. You knew, and you still, it wasn't personal. Bullshit. She took a step forward, anger overriding fear. You tortured me for 2 years. You made me hate myself, and now you want to marry me? Kael's jaw tightened. I didn't choose you. My father did. Then tell him no. I can't. Why not? Because I don't have a choice either. Ruth stared at him, searching for the lie, but his face was stone. This is insane, she breathed. Yes. I can't do this. You will. How do you know? He stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the faint scar above his eyebrow, the exhaustion in his eyes. Because if you don't, he said quietly, your father dies, and you'll spend the rest of your life knowing you could have saved him. Ruth's throat burned. She wanted to scream, to hit him, to run, but she didn't, because he was right. Kael turned away, facing the window again. The ceremony is at 6. Someone will bring you a dress. And then what? Then you play the part, smile, stand beside me, pretend this is what you want. For how long? As long as it takes. Ruth's nails bit into her palms. I hate you. He didn't flinch. Good, he said softly. It'll make this easier. He walked past her, footsteps echoing on the marble floor. And Ruth stood alone in the library, her future crumbling around her like ash. The dress arrived at noon. White, sleeveless, simple. It fit perfectly. Ruth stared at herself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. At 5:45, Victor knocked on her door. It's time. She followed him downstairs, through hallways, into a room she hadn't seen before, some kind of sitting room decorated with white flowers and candles. A small crowd waited, maybe 20 people, all strangers, except Kael. He stood at the front, hands clasped behind his back, dressed in a black suit. He looked like he was attending a funeral. Maybe he was. Victor guided her to Kael's side. Someone handed her a bouquet. She held it like a weapon. An officiant stepped forward. Older man, bored expression. He spoke in rapid Korean. Ruth caught maybe half of it. She heard her name, heard Kael's, heard the word marriage. The officiant looked at her. Do you consent? Ruth's mouth was dry. She glanced at Kael. He wasn't looking at her. I do, she whispered. The officiant turned to Kael. Do you consent? I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you married. No kiss, no applause, just silence. Victor handed Kael a ring. Kael took Ruth's hand, his grip firm, impersonal, and slid the band onto her finger. It was cold. Congratulations, Victor said. Ruth felt nothing. The crowd dispersed. Someone started pouring champagne. Kael released her hand and walked toward the door. Ruth followed. Where are we going? Your new room. I already have a room. Not anymore. He led her upstairs. Down a different hallway, stopped in front of a door. This is the East Wing, my quarters. You'll stay here from now on. He pushed the door open. Inside was a bedroom, larger than the last one. 2 beds, one on each side of the room. Ruth exhaled slowly. Separate beds. I'm not a monster, Kael said. She almost laughed. Could have fooled me. He stepped inside. She followed, closing the door behind her. Kael crossed to a desk, poured himself a drink. Whiskey. Didn't offer her one. Ruth set down her bouquet. So what now? Now you learn the rules. Rules. You don't leave the estate without permission. You don't speak to the media. You don't contact anyone from your old life. What about my father? He's being relocated, somewhere safe. You'll see him when it's appropriate. Her chest tightened. I want to talk to him. Not yet. When? When I say so. Ruth's hands trembled. You can't keep me locked up here. I can, and I will. Kael drained his glass. This isn't a negotiation. You're part of this family now. That means you follow the rules. Or there will be consequences. What kind of consequences? He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time she saw something beneath the cold exterior. Regret. You don't want to find out, he said quietly. He set down his glass, walked to the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we have a public appearance. Already? People need to see you, need to believe this is real. It's not real. Then you'd better learn to pretend. He left. The door clicked shut. Ruth stood in the center of the room, her wedding dress suddenly too tight, her lungs suddenly too small. She sank onto the bed, pulled off the ring, stared at it. This was her life now. Prisoner, wife, pawn. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in years, Ruth Calder let herself cry. The next morning, Kael was gone. A maid brought breakfast, toast, eggs, coffee. Ruth ate mechanically, staring out the window at the gardens below. At 10, Victor appeared. Mrs. Juno, you have an appointment. She hated the name already. He led her to a dressing room. Inside, a team of stylists waited, makeup artists, hairdressers, tailors. They descended on her like vultures. 2 hours later, she barely recognized herself. Hair sleek, makeup flawless, dress, navy blue, tailored, expensive. Victor nodded approvingly. Perfect. The car leaves in 20 minutes. Where are we going? A charity gala. You'll stand beside Kael, smile, answer questions politely. Nothing complicated. Ruth's stomach twisted. I don't know what to say. Then don't say much. Victor handed her a clutch. Just look happy. The gala was held at a hotel downtown. Cameras flashed the moment they stepped out of the car. Ruth's hand was locked in Kael's grip, tight, possessive, unyielding. He leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. Smile. She did. Inside, the ballroom glittered. Chandeliers, designer gowns, men in tuxedos, wealth dripping from every corner. Kael guided her through the crowd, introducing her to people whose names she immediately forgot. My wife, Ruth. The word felt like a brand. Everyone smiled, congratulated them, asked how they met. Kael lied smoothly. Old friends, reconnected recently. Ruth nodded along, her face aching from forcing smiles. They reached a table, sat. Champagne appeared. Kael drank. Ruth didn't. You're doing well, he murmured. I'm dying inside. That makes two of us. She glanced at him. For a moment she saw the exhaustion again, the weight. Why did you agree to this? She asked quietly. Cale's jaw tightened. Because refusing wasn't an option. My father doesn't ask. He commands. He swirled his glass. And disobedience has consequences. Ruth studied him, seeing him, really seeing him, for the first time. He wasn't just cruel, he was trapped, just like her. Before she could respond, a man approached. Younger, handsome, easy smile. Kyle, congratulations. Cale's expression shifted, colder, guarded. Adrian. The man turned to Ruth, extending his hand. You must be the bride. I'm Adrian, Cale's brother. Ruth shook his hand. His grip was warm, friendly. Nice to meet you. Trust me, the pleasure's mine. Adrian grinned. I was starting to think Kyle would never settle down. Adrian? Cale's voice was sharp. Adrian raised his hands. Relax. I'm just saying hello. He winked at Ruth. Welcome to the family. If you ever need anything at all, just ask. He walked away. Ruth watched him go. He seems nice. He's not. How do you know? Cale's eyes followed his brother across the room. Because I know him. The gala dragged on. Speeches, toasts, forced laughter. By the time they left, Ruth's feet ached and her head pounded. In the car, Kyle leaned back, eyes closed. You did well, he said. Thanks. Silence. Then, quietly, I'm sorry. Ruth turned. What? For what I did. Back then. He opened his eyes, staring at the ceiling. I was a kid. Stupid. Cruel. I didn't think about what it did to you. Ruth's throat tightened. Why now? She whispered. Why apologize now? Because we're stuck with each other. He looked at her. And I don't want you to hate me every second of it. She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. They rode the rest of the way in silence. Dwokes. Days blurred together. Ruth learned the rhythms of the estate. Breakfast at 8, Kyle left for work. She wandered the grounds, read, stared at walls. She saw her father once, a brief, supervised visit. He looked thinner, older. Are you okay? He'd asked. She'd lied. I'm fine. At night, Cale returned. They ate dinner in silence, went to their separate beds. Slowly, something shifted. Kyle started talking. Small things at first, work, the weather, nothing important, but it was something. One night, Ruth asked, Why do you do it? Do what? This. The business, the empire. If you hate it so much, why stay? Kyle set down his fork. Because it's all I know. That's not an answer. He looked at her. My father built this from nothing. Blood, sweat, violence. He expects me to protect it, expand it. And if I don't, he trailed off. He'll what? Replace me. Ruth frowned. With who? Adrian. The name hung in the air. You think he wants it? Cale's expression darkened. I know he does. Then let him have it. It's not that simple. Why not? Because Adrian doesn't just want the business. Kyle leaned back. He wants everything, and he'll burn it all down to get it. Ruth didn't push further, but the words stayed with her. Quote, 3 weeks in, everything changed. Ruth was in the library when Victor found her. Mrs. Juneau, we have a problem. She looked up from her book. What kind of problem? Your father. Her blood went cold. What happened? He's missing. The book slipped from her hands. What do you mean, missing? He left his safe house 2 days ago. Hasn't been seen since. Ruth stood, heart racing. Why wasn't I told? We were handling it. And? Victor hesitated. We received a message this morning from Adrian. Her stomach dropped. What did it say? Victor handed her a phone. On the screen, a photo. Her father, tied to a chair, blood on his face, and a message beneath. Let's talk. Ruth's hands shook. Kyle appeared in the doorway. Victor, leave. Victor bowed. Left. Cale crossed to her, took the phone, stared at the photo. He has him, Ruth whispered. Your brother has my father. Kale's jaw clenched. What does he want? Me. Kale set down the phone. He wants me to step down. Hand over control. Then do it. I can't. Why not? Because if I do, he'll kill your father anyway. Kale's eyes met hers. Adrian doesn't negotiate. He eliminates threats. Ruth's vision blurred. So what do we do? Kale didn't answer. He just stared at the photo. And Ruth realized, for the first time since this nightmare began, they were on the same side. We get him back, Kale said finally. How? He looked at her. We go to war. The war room was in the basement. Ruth followed Kyle down 2 flights of stairs through a steel door that required both a keycard and a fingerprint scan. The air grew colder with each step. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, the kind of place designed to swallow sound. Inside, 4 men waited around a metal table. They looked up when Kyle entered, their expressions hardening when they saw Ruth behind him. Everyone out, Kyle said. The men exchanged glances. Boss, we need to... Out. They left without another word. Kyle locked the door behind them, turned to Ruth. What I'm about to tell you stays between us. No one else. Not Victor. Not the staff. No one. Ruth crossed her arms. Fine. He moved to the table, spread out a map of the city. Red marks dotted various locations. Adrian's been planning this for months, maybe longer. Kale tapped one of the marks. He's been siphoning money, making alliances, turning people against me. Why? Because he thinks I am weak. Kale's voice was flat. He thinks our father made a mistake choosing me. Did he? Kale looked at her. That's what we're about to find out. He pulled out a folder. Inside, surveillance photos. Adrian meeting with men Ruth didn't recognize, shaking hands, passing envelopes. He's building his own network, Kyle continued. Soldiers, enforcers, people loyal to him, not the family. Ruth studied the photos. How many? Enough to be a problem. And my father? Leverage. Kale's jaw tightened. Adrian knows I need you compliant. Keeping your father alive keeps you in line. Ruth's stomach churned. So what's the plan? We find where he's holding your father. We extract him, and then what? You kill your own brother? Kale didn't answer. Ruth leaned against the table, her pulse hammering. This is insane. Yes. We could go to the police. The police are on Adrian's payroll. Then we run. Take my father and disappear. And live the rest of your life looking over your shoulder? Kyle shook his head. Adrian doesn't forget. He'll hunt you down. And when he finds you, he'll make sure you suffer. Ruth closed her eyes. So we have no choice. No. She opened her eyes, looked at him. You're asking me to trust you. I'm asking you to survive. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ruth straightened. What do you need me to do? The first step was information. Kale had sources. People who owed him favors. People who feared him. People who hated Adrian more than they hated Kyle. Over the next 3 days, he called them all. Ruth watched from the shadows. Listened. Learned. She'd never seen this side of him. Cold. Calculating. Ruthless. He spoke in coded language. Made threats without raising his voice. Promised things that made her skin crawl. And slowly, piece by piece, they built a picture. Adrian was holding her father in a warehouse on the east side. Industrial district. Abandoned. Easy to defend. He had 6 men with him. Armed. Trained. We're outgunned, Ruth said. Kyle didn't disagree. We need more people. People you can trust? He hesitated. That's the problem. Ruth frowned. You're the head of the family. Don't you have an army? In theory. Kale poured himself a drink. They were back in the library, his preferred place to think. In practice, half of them are probably waiting to see who comes out on top. So they'll side with whoever wins. Exactly. Ruth sat across from him. Then we make sure we win. Kale looked at her. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. You're not running, he said. Where would I go? I don't know, but most people would try. Ruth's hands tightened around her glass. Most people didn't watch their father get tied to a chair and beaten. Kale nodded slowly. Fair enough? He set down his drink, leaned forward. There's one person I trust, he said. Marcus. He's been with the family since before I was born. Loyal, discreet. If anyone can help us, it's him. Where is he? Managing one of our operations upstate. I'll call him tonight. And if he says no? Kael's expression darkened. He won't. Marcus arrived the next morning. Ruth heard the car pull up, watched from the window as a man in his 50s stepped out. Broad shoulders, scarred hands, the kind of face that had seen violence and learned to live with it. Kael met him in the foyer. They clasped hands, brief, respectful. Marcus, thanks for coming. You sounded serious on the phone. Marcus glanced around. Where's your father? Business trip. Marcus didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. His eyes shifted to Ruth. This her? Ruth, my wife. Marcus studied her. Ruth held his gaze. She know what she's getting into? Marcus asked. She's learning. Marcus grunted. All right, let's talk. They moved to the war room. Kael laid out the situation, Adrian's betrayal, the kidnapping, the plan. Marcus listened without interrupting. When Kael finished, he leaned back in his chair. You're talking about going to war with your own brother. I'm talking about getting Ruth's father back. Same thing. Kael didn't deny it. Marcus rubbed his jaw. How many men does Adrian have? 6 at the warehouse, maybe a dozen more scattered around the city. And you? 4 I can count on, including you. Marcus whistled low. That's not great odds. I know. And if we lose? We won't. Marcus looked at Ruth. What about you? You ready for this? Ruth's throat tightened. I don't have a choice. Everyone's got a choice, kid. Not me. Marcus held her gaze. Then he nodded. All right. He looked at Kael. When do we move? Tonight. Bush. The hours before nightfall stretched like wire. Ruth couldn't eat, couldn't sit still. She paced the estate, her mind racing through 100 worst-case scenarios. What if they were too late? What if her father was already dead? What if Adrian had more men than Kael thought? What if this was all a trap? She found herself in the library again, staring out the window at the gardens. You should rest. She turned. Kael stood in the doorway. I can't. He stepped inside, closed the door. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. Tonight's going to be ugly. There's going to be violence, blood, maybe death. Ruth's stomach twisted. I know. Do you? He moved closer. Because once we walk into that warehouse, there's no turning back. You can't unsee what you're about to see. I don't care. You will. Ruth's hands balled into fists. Stop trying to protect me. I'm not protecting you. I'm warning you. Why? You think I'm going to break? Kael's jaw tightened. I think you've never held a gun, never watched someone die, and I think you're underestimating what that does to a person. Ruth stepped closer, close enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the exhaustion in his eyes. Maybe I am, she said, but my father's in there, and I'm not leaving him. Kael stared at her, searching for doubt, finding none. All right, he said finally, then you need to learn how to shoot. The gun was heavier than she expected. Kael handed it to her in the basement, a sleek black pistol, cold and foreign in her hands. Ever fired one? He asked. No. Good. Then you won't have bad habits to unlearn. He showed her the basics. Safety, stance, grip, sight alignment. Don't pull the trigger. Squeeze it. Slow. Steady. Ruth aimed at the target downrange. A paper silhouette, human-shaped. Her hand shook. Breathe, Kael said. In through your nose, out through your mouth. She did. The gun fired. The recoil jolted up her arm. The bullet hit wide, nowhere near the target. Again. She fired. Missed. Again. Missed. Again. The fourth shot hit the edge of the silhouette. Better, Kael said. But you're flinching, anticipating the recoil. I can't help it. Yes, you can. He stepped behind her, his hands guiding hers. Focus on the target, not the gun, not the noise, just the target. Ruth's pulse hammered. She could feel the heat of him at her back, the steadiness of his grip. Now, he murmured. Breathe, aim, squeeze. She fired. The bullet hit center mass. Kael stepped back. Good. Ruth lowered the gun, her hand still trembling. Will I have to use this? She asked. Kael didn't lie. Maybe. And if I do? Then you aim for the chest, and you don't hesitate. Ruth looked at the target, at the hole she'd just put through it. I don't know if I can. You will. Cale's voice was quiet, certain. When the moment comes, you'll do what you have to. She wasn't sure if that was a comfort or a threat. They left at midnight, 2 cars. Cale drove the first with Ruth in the passenger seat. Marcus and 2 other men, Jake and Ravi, both stone-faced and silent, followed in the second. The city blurred past. Empty streets, flickering streetlights, the kind of quiet that felt dangerous. Ruth's gun sat in her lap, loaded, safety on. She kept her hands on it, grounding herself. You don't have to come inside, Cale said. Yes, I do. Ruth, he's my father. Cale's hands tightened on the wheel. If things go wrong, they won't. If they do, you run. You don't look back, you just run. Ruth turned to him. What about you? I'll be fine. You can't know that. No. His eyes stayed on the road. But I need you to promise me. If it falls apart, you get out. Ruth didn't answer. Promise me. She looked away. Fine. She was lying. They both knew it. The warehouse loomed ahead. Kyle killed the headlights half a block out, pulled over. The second car stopped behind them. They gathered in the shadows. Marcus pulled out a tablet showing thermal imaging of the building. 6 heat signatures, clustered near the center. They're expecting us, Marcus said. Cale nodded. Probably. So what's the play? We go in quiet. 2 teams. Marcus, you take Jake and Ravi through the west entrance. Ruth and I go through the east. You're bringing her? Marcus frowned. Yes. Boss is. She stays with me. Cale's tone left no room for argument. Marcus sighed. Your funeral. They moved. The east entrance was a rusted metal door. Cale picked the lock in under a minute. It swung open with a groan that made Ruth's heart stop. Inside, darkness. Cale pulled out a flashlight. The beam cut through the gloom, revealing stacks of crates, broken pallets, years of dust. Ruth followed close behind, her gun raised, her hands slick with sweat. They moved deeper. The warehouse was massive. High ceilings, rows of shelving, a maze. Ruth's ears strained for sound, voices, footsteps. Anything, nothing, too quiet. Kyle stopped, raised a fist. Ruth froze. He pointed ahead. Through a gap in the shelving, she saw light, movement. They crept closer, and then she saw him. Her father, tied to a chair. Head slumped forward, blood crusted on his temple. Ruth's breath hitched. Cale grabbed her arm, squeezed. Wait. 2 men stood guard, guns in hand, bored expressions. Cale raised his weapon, aimed. On my mark, he whispered. 3, 2. A gunshot shattered the silence. Not from Kyle, from behind them. Ruth spun. A man, one of Adrian's, stepped out from the shadows, gun raised. Kyle fired first. The man dropped. And then all hell broke loose. Shouts. Running footsteps. The warehouse exploded with noise. Move! Cale grabbed Ruth's hand, pulled her forward. They ran toward her father. The guards turned, raising their weapons. Kyle fired twice. 1 guard fell. The other ducked behind cover, returning fire. Bullets ricocheted off metal. Ruth's ears rang. Cale shoved her behind a crate. Stay down! He leaned out, fired again. The second guard went down. Marcus's voice crackled over the radio. We've got company. West Side's crawling. Cale swore. How many? Too many. More gunfire. Closer now. Cale moved to her father, cutting the ropes. The old man's eyes fluttered open. Ruthie? Dad, it's okay. We're getting you out. Cale hauled him to his feet. Can you walk? Her father nodded weakly. Then move. Now. They ran. The warehouse was chaos. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness. Men shouted. Bullets tore through the air. Ruth's pulse roared. She stumbled, caught herself, kept moving. They were almost to the exit when a figure stepped into their path. Adrian. He smiled, slow, cold. Hello, brother. Cale stopped, raised his gun. Adrian raised his, aimed at Ruth. Drop it, Adrian said. Or she dies. Cale didn't move. I'm serious, Cale. Drop the gun. Ruth's blood turned to ice. Do it, Adrian said. And maybe, I let her walk out of here. Cale's jaw clenched. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. Adrian's smile widened. Good. Now kick it over. Cale did. Adrian picked it up, tucked it into his belt. You always were too soft, he said. Father knew it. I knew it. The whole family knows it. Adrian, shut up. Adrian stepped closer. You had one job. Run the business. Keep the empire strong. And what did you do? You married some nobody translator to pay off a debt. You made us look weak. Cale's fists clenched. This isn't about her. No. It's about you. Adrian's voice turned venomous. You think you're better than me? Smarter? Stronger? You're nothing. You're a coward hiding behind Father's name. And you're a traitor. Adrian laughed. No, I'm a realist, and I'm done waiting for you to fail. He raised his gun. Ruth moved without thinking. She stepped in front of Kyle. Adrian's eyes widened. What are you doing? Shoot me, Ruth said. Her voice shook, but she didn't move. If you want to kill him, you go through me first. Ruth. Cale grabbed her arm. She shook him off. I mean it. Adrian stared at her. You're willing to die for him? I'm willing to die for my father, and Kyle's the only one who can get him out of here. Adrian's expression twisted. Rage. Disbelief. You're insane. Maybe. For a moment, no one moved. Then Adrian lowered his gun. Fine. He stepped back. Take your father. Get out. But this isn't over. He looked at Kyle. Next time I won't miss. He turned. Walked into the shadows. Gone. Cale grabbed Ruth's arm, pulling her toward the exit. Move. Now. They ran. Outside, Marcus was waiting with the cars. Engines running. They piled in. Cale floored it. Ruth looked back. The warehouse was burning now, flames licking the sky. Her father slumped beside her, barely conscious. Is he okay? She asked. Cale glanced in the rearview mirror. He'll live. Ruth exhaled shakily. They drove in silence, back to the estate, back to safety. But Ruth knew the truth. There was no safety anymore, only war. They brought her father to the estate's medical wing, a small room staffed by a doctor who asked no questions. He cleaned the wounds, stitched the gashes, administered painkillers. He needs rest, the doctor said, and he'll be sore for a while, but he'll recover. Ruth sat beside him, holding his hand. Her father's eyes opened, focused on her. You came for me, he whispered. Of course I did. I'm sorry for all of this, for... Don't. Ruth squeezed his hand. Just rest. He closed his eyes. Ruth stayed with him until he fell asleep. Then she left. Found Kyle in the library. He stood by the window staring out at the gardens, a glass of whiskey in his hand. He's going to be okay, Ruth said. Kyle nodded, didn't turn around. Ruth moved closer. What you did tonight? I didn't do anything. You saved him. I started a war. Kyle's voice was hollow. Adrian won't stop now. He'll come for me. For you. For everyone. Ruth stood beside him. Then we fight back. Kale looked at her. You don't know what you're saying. Yes, I do. Ruth, I'm not running. She met his gaze. Not anymore. You were right. Adrian won't stop. So we end this together. Kale stared at her, searching for doubt, finding none. You stepped in front of me, he said quietly. In the warehouse. You could have died. So could you. Why did you do it? Ruth didn't have an answer. Not one that made sense. I don't know, she said. Instinct. Kale's jaw tightened. That was stupid. Probably. You could have been killed. But I wasn't. Kale turned away, set down his glass. You're not what I expected, he said. What did you expect? Someone who'd hate me, run from me, fight me every step of the way. Ruth smiled faintly. I still hate you. Good. Kale's expression softened. Just a fraction. It keeps things honest. For a moment, they stood in silence. Then Ruth spoke. What happens now? Kale's eyes darkened. Now we prepare. Adrian's going to move fast. He'll try to turn the family against me, claim I'm unfit to lead. Can he do that? If he has enough support, yes. And if he does, Kale met her gaze. Then I lose everything. The business, the empire, my life. Ruth's chest tightened. We won't let that happen. We might not have a choice. There's always a choice. Kale looked at her, really looked at her. You've changed, he said. So have you. He didn't deny it. Sucked. The next morning, the first blow landed. Kale received a call from one of the family's senior members, an uncle, ruthless and cunning. Ruth listened from across the room as Kale's expression hardened. I understand, Kale said. Thank you for the warning. He hung up. What is it? Ruth asked. Adrian's calling a family meeting tomorrow night. He's going to formally challenge my leadership. Ruth's stomach dropped. Can he do that, if he has the votes? Kale rubbed his temples. And it sounds like he might. How many does he need? 2/3 of the senior members. How many are there? 12, including me. Ruth did the math. So he needs 8. Yes. And how many does he have? Kale's silence was answer enough. Ruth stood. Then we convince them. Show them Adrian's dangerous. It's not that simple. Why not? Because half of them already think I'm weak, and the other half are waiting to see who comes out on top. Ruth's hands clenched. So we make them choose you. How? She didn't have an answer. Not yet. Kids. That night, Ruth couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. Tomorrow, everything would be decided. Kale's future, her father's safety, her own life. And she had no idea how to stop it. She got up, slipped into the hallway. The estate was dark, silent. She found herself at Kale's door, hesitated, then knocked. Come in. She pushed the door open. Kale sat at his desk, papers spread in front of him. He looked exhausted. Can't sleep? He asked. No. He gestured to a chair. She sat. I've been going through the family records, Kale said, looking for leverage, anything I can use to sway the vote. And? Nothing. He leaned back. Adrian's been smart. He hasn't left a trail. Ruth frowned. What about the kidnapping? That's proof he's dangerous. It's also proof he's willing to take risks. Some of the family will see that as strength. That's insane. That's the business. Ruth shook her head. There has to be something. Kale was silent. Then, there is one thing. What? He hesitated. If I can prove Adrian's been stealing from the family, embezzling funds, that would be enough. Can you prove it? Not yet, but I know where to look. Ruth leaned forward. Where? Kale met her eyes. His office, downtown. He keeps a private server there. If the evidence exists, it's on that server. Then we get it. It's not that simple. The building's secure. Cameras, guards, and Adrian's people are watching. So we go at night. Ruth, I'm serious. She stood. We don't have time to wait. The meeting's tomorrow. If we're going to do this, we do it now. Kale stared at her. You're out of your mind, he said. Maybe. Ruth crossed her arms. But I'm also right. For a long moment, Kale didn't move. Then he stood. All right, he said. We go tonight. They left at 2 a.m. Just the two of them. No backup. Too risky. The building was a high-rise in the financial district. Sleek, modern, 20 floors of glass and steel. Adrian's office was on the 15th. Kyle parked 2 blocks away. They approached on foot. There are cameras everywhere, he said. We need to avoid them. How? He pulled out a small device. Jammer. It'll loop the footage for 60 seconds. That's all we get. Ruth's pulse quickened. That's not a lot of time. No, so we move fast. They reached the building. Kale activated the jammer. The side entrance clicked open, unlocked remotely. They slipped inside. The lobby was empty. Marble floors, potted plants, a security desk, unmanned. They moved to the elevators. Kyle hit the button for the 15th floor. The doors closed. Ruth's heart hammered. If we get caught, she started. We won't. But if we do, then we fight our way out. The elevator climbed. 15 floors felt like 100. Finally, the doors opened. The hallway was dark. Silent. Kale led her to a door at the end. Adrian's name on a plaque. He pulled out a lockpick, worked the mechanism. The door opened. Inside, the office was pristine: desk, leather chair, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, and in the corner, a server rack. Cale moved to it, pulled out a USB drive. "This'll take a few minutes," he said. Ruth stood by the door, her gun in hand, watching the hallway. Time stretched. Every second felt like an hour. Cale's fingers flew over the keyboard. Data streamed across the screen. "Come on," he muttered. "Come on." Ruth's ears strained, listening for footsteps, voices, nothing. Then, elevator doors opening, her blood froze. "Kyle." "Almost done." Footsteps, coming closer. "Kyle." "Got it." He yanked the USB drive free. "Let's go." They ran. Out the door, down the hallway. The footsteps were right behind them. A shout. "Stop!" Cale grabbed her hand, pulled her into the stairwell. They flew down the stairs. Ruth's lungs burned. Behind them, more shouting, doors slamming. They hit the ground floor, burst out the side exit, ran, 2 blocks, 3. Cale's car came into view. They dove inside. Cale started the engine, tires screeching as they peeled out. Ruth looked back. Men poured out of the building, but they were gone. Kyle didn't slow down until they were across the city. Ruth's hands shook. Did they see us? Maybe. What if they tell Adrian? They will. Ruth's stomach twisted. Then we're out of time. Kyle nodded grimly. The meeting's in 18 hours. We need to move fast. He pulled over, grabbed the USB drive. Let's see what we've got. Back at the estate, Kyle plugged the drive into his laptop. Files appeared, hundreds of them. He opened one, then another. His expression darkened. What is it? Ruth asked. Cale turned the screen toward her. Spreadsheets, transactions, transfers, millions of dollars moved through shell companies, offshore accounts, all signed by Adrian. He's been stealing, Kyle said. For years. Ruth's breath caught. This is enough? More than enough. Kyle's jaw tightened. This will destroy him. Relief flooded through her, but it was short-lived, because at that moment Kyle's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen. His face went pale. What? Ruth asked. Cale showed her. A message. From Adrian. I know what you did, and I'm coming for you, both of you. Ruth's hands went numb. He knows, she whispered. Cale nodded. He knows. And somewhere in the city, Ruth knew Adrian was already moving. The war had begun. The message burned on the screen like a brand. I know what you did, and I'm coming for you, both of you. Ruth stared at the words, her chest tightening with each breath. The estate, this fortress of marble and steel, suddenly felt like a trap. Kyle was already moving. He grabbed his phone, dialing rapidly. Marcus, I need everyone at the estate. Now. He paused, listening. I don't care what they're doing. Pull them in. We've got maybe an hour before Adrian moves. He hung up, turned to Ruth. Get your father. Take him to the panic room. What panic room? 3rd floor, east wing, behind the bookshelf in the study. He grabbed her shoulders. There's a keypad. Code is 0817. You get in there, you lock it, and you don't come out until I come for you. Ruth's pulse hammered. What about you? I'm staying here. That's insane. Ruth, his grip tightened. Adrian's not coming to talk. He's coming to end this, and I need to know you're safe. I'm not hiding while you... This isn't a negotiation. His voice turned sharp. You want to help? Keep your father alive, that's how you help. Ruth wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but she saw the fear in his eyes. Real fear, the kind that came from knowing exactly what his brother was capable of. Fine, she whispered. But if you die, I'm going to kill you. Cale's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Deal. Ruth found her father in the medical wing, sitting up in bed, color slowly returning to his face. Ruthie, what's wrong? We need to move, now. She helped him to his feet. He was weak, unsteady, but he managed. They made their way through the hallways, Ruth's ears strained for sounds, car engines, shouting, gunfire. Nothing yet. The study was empty. Ruth ran her hands along the bookshelf until she found the hidden latch. The shelf swung open, revealing a steel door. She punched in the code, 0817. The door hissed open. Inside was a small room, concrete walls, reinforced door, supplies stacked in the corner, water, food, medical kits. A prison designed to keep people safe. Ruth helped her father inside. He sank onto a cot, breathing hard. "What's happening?" he asked. "Adrian's coming." Her father's face went pale. "Then you need to run, both of you." "Kyle won't run. Then he's going to die." Her father grabbed her hand. "Ruthie, listen to me. These people, they don't forgive. They don't forget. If Adrian wants Cale dead, nothing's going to stop him." Ruth pulled her hand free. "We have evidence, proof he's been stealing from the family. Once the others see it, you think that matters?" Her father's voice cracked. "You think proof means anything to people like this? They'll side with whoever's stronger, and right now, that's Adrian." Ruth's stomach churned, because he was right. She'd seen it in the warehouse, the way Adrian moved, the way his men obeyed without question. He wasn't just dangerous, he was winning. "Stay here," Ruth said. "Don't open this door for anyone but me or Kyle." "Where are you going?" "To help." "Ruth." She closed the door, locked it from the outside, and ran. Oh. Downstairs, the estate had transformed. Men moved through the hallways, Kyle's people, armed and stone-faced. Marcus barked orders, positioning them at windows, doors, choke points. Kyle stood in the foyer, loading a rifle. Ruth crossed to him. "My father's secure." "Good." He didn't look up. "Now get in there with him." "No." "Ruth, I'm not hiding." She grabbed a pistol from the table, checked the magazine. "You said it yourself. This is war, so let me fight." Kyle's jaw clenched. "You don't know what you're asking." "Yes, I do." He stared at her, searching for doubt, finding steel. "Fine." He handed her a radio. "Stay on this channel. If things go south, you run. Understood?" Ruth nodded. She was lying again. Marcus approached, his expression grim. Cameras picked up 6 vehicles, coming fast from the north. Cale swore under his breath. "How many men?" "At least 20, maybe more." Ruth's blood went cold. 20? Adrian's not playing around. Marcus checked his weapon. "We've got 12. That's not good odds." Cale's eyes hardened. "Then we make them count." He turned to the assembled men. "You all know what's at stake. Adrian's coming to take everything. If he wins, we're all dead. So we hold this line. We don't give an inch, and we make damn sure he regrets coming here." The men nodded, grim, resolute. Cale looked at Ruth one last time, then the first shots rang out. The windows exploded, glass shattered, raining down like hail. Men dove for cover. Bullets tore through the walls, splintering wood and marble. Ruth hit the floor, her ears ringing. Kyle was already returning fire. His rifle cracked, steady and controlled. "East side," Marcus shouted. "They're flanking." More gunfire. Closer now. Ruth crawled to the window, peered over the sill. Outside, Adrian's men advanced across the lawn. Black tactical gear, military precision. This wasn't a raid. It was an execution. Ruth raised her pistol, aimed, fired. The recoil jolted her arm. Her shot went wide. She fired again, and again. One of Adrian's men stumbled, fell. Ruth's stomach lurched. She'd hit him. She'd actually hit him. No time to think. She kept firing. Around her the battle raged. Men shouted. Guns roared. The air thick with smoke and cordite. Kyle moved like a machine, controlled, lethal, every shot deliberate. But they were outnumbered. For every man they dropped, 2 more appeared. "They're at the south entrance," someone yelled. Marcus swore. "I'm on it." He ran. Ruth heard more gunfire, screaming, then silence. "Marcus?" Cale's voice crackled over the radio. No response. "Marcus!" Nothing. Cale's face went white. Ruth's chest tightened. "We need to fall back." "Not yet." "Kyle." "I said not yet." Another explosion. The front door blew inward, hinges screaming. Adrian's men poured through. Cale fired. 3 went down, but more kept coming. "Upstairs!" Cale grabbed Ruth's arm. "Now!" They ran. Behind them, the foyer became a war zone. Bullets shredded furniture, walls, paintings. They reached the 2nd floor. Kyle shoved Ruth into a room, slammed the door. "Barricade it," he said. "What about you?" "I'm buying time." "Kyle..." He was already gone. Ruth grabbed a dresser, shoved it against the door. Her hand shook so badly she could barely grip the wood. Outside, the gunfire intensified. She pressed her ear to the door, heard footsteps, voices. Then Kyle's voice, cold, commanding. "That's far enough." A pause. Then Adrian's voice, smooth, amused. Hello, brother. Our sunk. Ruth's blood turned to ice. She cracked the door open, just enough to see. The hallway was a standoff. Cale stood at one end, rifle raised. Blood streaked his face. His shirt torn. Adrian stood at the other, flanked by 4 men, all armed, all aiming at Cale. You're outnumbered, Adrian said. Outgunned. And out of time. So why don't you make this easy on yourself? Cale didn't lower his weapon. You'll have to kill me. Adrian sighed. I was hoping you'd say that. He raised his hand. Ruth's heart stopped. Then, wait. A new voice, female, familiar. Ruth's stomach dropped. A woman stepped into view, tall, elegant. Dark hair pulled into a sleek bun. Victor's assistant. The one who'd brought Ruth to the estate on that first day. Her name was Diana, and she was holding a gun to Victor's head. Victor's face was bruised, bleeding, his hands bound behind his back. Cale's expression shattered. Diana, what are you doing? Diana smiled. My job. You work for me. No. She pressed the gun harder against Victor's temple. I work for Adrian. Always have. Ruth's world tilted. A spy. Inside the estate, all along. You've been feeding him information, Cale said slowly. Our movements, our plans. Diana nodded. Every word, every meeting, every pathetic attempt to outmaneuver him. She laughed. You never stood a chance. Kyle's rifle wavered. Victor, don't. Victor's voice was hoarse. Don't give them anything. Adrian stepped forward. Here's how this works. You put down the gun, you surrender, and I'll let Victor live. Maybe even let your little wife walk away. Cale's eyes flicked to the door where Ruth hid. She pressed back into the shadows, heart hammering. And if I don't? Cale asked. Then Diana pulls the trigger, and Victor's brains paint the wall. Victor's eyes closed. Cale, don't. Cale stood frozen, torn. Ruth saw it in his face, the calculation, the desperation. He was going to surrender. She couldn't let that happen. Ruth pushed the door open, stepped into the hallway. Every gun swung toward her. Ruth, no, Cale started. Let Victor go, Ruth said. Her voice shook, but she forced it steady. You want leverage? Take me instead. Adrian's eyebrows rose, bold, stupid, but bold. Ruth, get back inside, Cale growled. She ignored him, focused on Adrian. I'm worth more than him. You kill Victor, you lose nothing. But me? She took a step forward. I'm Cale's wife, his weakness. You let Victor go, I'll walk over there right now. Adrian studied her, intrigued. You'd trade yourself? Yes. Why? Because this is my fight too. Adrian smiled, slow, dangerous. All right. He nodded to Diana. Diana shoved Victor forward. He stumbled, fell to his knees. Now you, Adrian said to Ruth. Ruth started walking. Cale grabbed her arm. Don't. She met his eyes. Trust me. Ruth. She pulled free, kept walking. 10 feet. 5. Adrian's men closed around her, and then Ruth moved. She grabbed the gun from the nearest man's holster, spun, fired. The shot hit Diana in the shoulder. She screamed, dropped her weapon. Chaos erupted. Cale dove for cover, firing. Adrian's men scattered. Ruth ran. Hands grabbed her, slammed her into the wall. Pain exploded through her skull. She hit the floor, hard. Her vision blurred, the world tilted. Through the haze, she saw Adrian standing over her. That, he said quietly, was a mistake. He raised his gun, aimed at her head. Cale's voice roared, No! A shot rang out. Adrian jerked. Blood bloomed on his chest. He staggered, looked down at the wound, then at Cale. You actually did it, he whispered. He fell. For a moment, no one moved. Then Adrian's men opened fire. Cale grabbed Ruth, hauled her to her feet. Run! They sprinted down this hallway. Bullets chased them. Behind, shouting. Footsteps. They reached the stairwell, flew down 2 flights, burst into the foyer, bodies everywhere. Marcus lay slumped against the wall, eyes open, unseen. Ruth's stomach heaved. This way! Cale pulled her toward the back exit. They made it outside. The gardens were chaos. Gunfire, smoke. Cale's car sat 50 yards away. They ran. Ruth's lungs burned, her legs screamed, almost there. A shot cracked. Cale stumbled. Cale! He grabbed the car door, steadied himself. Blood soaked his side. I'm fine, get in. Ruth dove into the passenger seat. Cale started the engine. Tires screamed. They tore down the driveway. Behind them, the estate burned. Backed out. Cale drove for 20 minutes before pulling over. His face was gray. Sweat dripped down his temple. How bad? Ruth asked. Bad enough. She lifted his shirt. The bullet had gone through, clean entry and exit, but he was losing blood, fast. We need a hospital. No hospitals. Cale's voice was weak. They'll find us. Then where? He fumbled for his phone, dialed. Marcus has a safe house, north side. He winced. Address is in my contacts, under Warehouse 2. Ruth grabbed the phone, found it. She drove. Cale slumped in the passenger seat, breathing shallow. Stay with me, Ruth said. Not planning on dying. Good, because I still hate you. He laughed. It turned into a cough. The safe house was an abandoned garage, rusted, filthy, perfect. Ruth helped Kyle inside. He collapsed onto a cot in the corner. She found a first aid kit, cleaning alcohol, bandages. This is going to hurt, she said. Just do it. She poured alcohol over the wound. Kyle hissed, his body going rigid. Ruth worked quickly, packing the wound, wrapping it tight. When she finished, Kyle's eyes were closed. Kyle? Still here. Ruth sat beside him, her hands covered in his blood. Did I kill him? Kyle asked quietly. Adrian? Yeah. Ruth thought about the way he'd fallen. The blood. I don't know. Kale opened his eyes. If he's alive, we'll deal with it. Ruth, we'll deal with it. He stared at the ceiling. I shot my own brother, he whispered. Ruth took his hand, squeezed. You saved my life. Maybe. Not maybe. You did. Kale's fingers tightened around hers. For a long moment, they sat in silence. Then Ruth's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? Static. Then a voice. Cold. Furious. Adrian. You think you won? He rasped. You think shooting me changes anything? Ruth's blood froze. He was alive. I'm coming for you, Adrian continued. Both of you. And when I find you, I'm going to make you watch while I kill everyone you love. Your father, Kyle, everyone. The line went dead. Ruth lowered the phone, her hands shaking. He's alive, she whispered. Kale's eyes closed. Of course he is. Ruth's mind raced. We need to run, leave the city, the country. He'll find us. Then what do we do? Kyle was silent. Then, we finish it. How? The meeting, tomorrow night. The family votes on leadership. He forced himself upright, wincing. If we can get there, show them the evidence, prove what Adrian's done, they'll turn on him. You can barely stand. I'll manage. Kale, it's the only move we have left. His eyes met hers. We show up. We fight. Or we spend the rest of our lives running. Ruth stared at him. He was right. This was it. The only way forward. All right, she said. We go to the meeting. The next 18 hours passed in a blur. Ruth kept watch while Kyle slept. Every sound made her jump, every shadow a threat. She checked her father's location, still locked in the panic room, safe, for now. At dawn, Kyle woke. Still pale, still weak, but alive. They ate, planned, prepared. The meeting's at the old Juneau estate, Kyle said. Outside the city. Adrian will be there. So will the rest of the family. How do we get in? Front door. He smiled grimly. I'm still the head of the family, technically. And if they stop us, then we improvise. Ruth loaded her gun. I'm getting really tired of improvising. Yeah, me too. They arrived at sunset. The old estate was massive, Gothic, built a century ago by Kyle's great-grandfather. Cars lined the driveway. Expensive. Black. The family was here. Kyle parked at the edge of the property, killed the engine. Last chance to run, he said. Ruth checked her gun. I'm not running. They got out, walked toward the entrance. Two guards stood at the door. They stiffened when they saw Kyle. Sir, you're not supposed to. I'm head of this family, Kyle said coldly, and I'm attending the meeting. Move. The guards exchanged glances, then stepped aside. Inside, the great hall was packed. 12 men sat around a long table, old, powerful, the senior members of the Juno family, and at the far end standing was Adrian, bandaged, pale, but very much alive. He smiled when he saw Kyle. Brother, so glad you could make it. Kyle didn't respond. He moved to the table, sat. Ruth stood behind him. The eldest member, Uncle Chen, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, called the meeting to order. We're here to address the challenge to Kyle's leadership. Adrian has brought forward allegations of incompetence, weakness, and a failure to protect the family's interests. Adrian stepped forward. Everything I said is true. Kyle married a nobody to settle a debt. He's allowed our enemies to grow bold, and just yesterday, he shot me. His own blood. Murmurs around the table. That's your defense? Kyle's voice cut through. You kidnapped an innocent man, attacked the estate, killed Marcus and half a dozen loyal men, and you're calling me weak? Adrian's smile widened. I did what you couldn't. I took action. You took what wasn't yours. Kyle pulled out the USB drive, placed it on the table. This contains records of every transaction Adrian's made over the past 5 years. Embezzlement, theft, millions stolen from the family. Silence. Uncle Chen picked up the drive. Is this true? Adrian's expression didn't change. Numbers can be fabricated. Then let's check, Kyle said. Chen plugged the drive into a laptop. The room waited. Files appeared, spreadsheets, transactions. Chen's face darkened. This is extensive. It's also bullshit, Adrian said smoothly. Kyle's desperate. He's trying to frame me. Then explain these. Chen pointed at the screen. Your signature. Your accounts. Adrian's jaw tightened. I moved money. Yes, but it was for investments, expanding our reach. Without the family's knowledge? I didn't think I needed permission. That's not how this works, another member said. The murmurs grew louder, angrier. Ruth felt a flicker of hope. They were turning. Then Adrian laughed. You really think this matters? He looked around the table. You think proof changes anything? Half of you have been skimming for years. The other half are too scared to act. He leaned forward. The truth is, you don't care about the money. You care about power. And right now, I have it. He snapped his fingers. The doors burst open. Armed men flooded in. 20, 30. Adrian soldiers, guns raised, aimed at everyone. Here's how this is going to work, Adrian said. You're going to vote, right now, and you're going to choose me. Or my men start shooting. Uncle Chen's face went white. This is madness. This is survival. Adrian's eyes swept the room. So, who votes for me? Slowly, hands rose. 1, 2, 5. Ruth's heart sank. They were folding. Kale stood. You're making a mistake. Sit down, Kale. He'll destroy everything. I said sit. Adrian nodded to one of his men. The man raised his gun, aimed at Kyle. Ruth moved without thinking. She stepped in front of Kale. Again. Shoot him, she said, and you shoot me first. Adrian's expression twisted. You're starting to annoy me. Good. For a moment, no one moved. Then Adrian lowered his hand. Fine. Have it your way. He turned to his men. Kill them both. Guns rose. Ruth closed her eyes. And then, an explosion. The far wall blew inward. Smoke, chaos, screaming. Through the haze, figures poured in. Not Adrian's men. Federal agents, badges, body armor. Nobody move, hands in the air. Ruth's mind spun. What the hell? Uncle Chen stood, raising his hands, a faint smile on his lips. About time, he muttered. Ruth stared. He'd called them. Chen had called the feds. Adrian's face went white. He turned to run. Agents tackled him, slammed him to the ground. Adrian Juno, you're under arrest for embezzlement, kidnapping, attempted murder. Adrian screamed, thrashed. It didn't matter. They cuffed him, dragged him out. The room was chaos. Agents shouting, family members detained. Kyle grabbed Ruth's arm. We need to go. What about now? They ran, out the side exit, into the gardens. Behind them, sirens wailed. They made it to the car. Kyle started the engine. Ruth looked back at the estate, flashing lights, agents everywhere. What just happened? She breathed. Kale's hands gripped the wheel. Chen made a deal. He gave them Adrian in exchange for immunity. For all of them. Probably. Ruth's head spun. So it's over? Kale didn't answer. He just drove. They returned to the safe house. Kyle collapsed onto the cot, exhausted, bleeding through his bandages again. Ruth helped him, redressed the wound. We need a real doctor, she said. Later. Kale. Ruth. He grabbed her hand. Just give me a minute. She sat beside him. For a long time, neither spoke. Then Ruth's phone buzzed. She checked it. A news alert. Adrian Juneau arrested. Federal charges filed. Juneau family empire under investigation. She showed Kyle. He read it, closed his eyes. It's really over, Ruth whispered. Kyle opened his eyes, looked at her. No, he said quietly. It's just beginning. Ruth frowned. What do you mean? The family's fractured. The feds are circling, and half the city wants us dead. He sat up, wincing. Adrian's gone. But the empire he tried to steal? It's ours now, if we want it. Ruth's chest tightened. Do you want it? Kale stared at the wall. I don't know, he said finally, but I know one thing. We can't go back to how things were. Ruth took his hand. Then we move forward. Kale looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Hope. Together? He asked. Ruth squeezed his hand. Together. Outside, the city hummed, dangerous, unforgiving. But inside this broken safe house, in the space between two people who'd been enemies and were now something else entirely, there was a chance. Fragile, uncertain, but real. And that, Ruth realized, was enough. For now. The news broke 3 hours after Adrian's arrest. Ruth watched it on a cracked phone screen, sitting on the floor of the safe house while Kyle slept fitfully on the cot behind her. The reporter's voice was crisp, professional, merciless. Federal authorities have arrested Adrian Juneau on multiple charges, including embezzlement, kidnapping, and conspiracy to commit murder. Sources say the investigation into the Juneau family's criminal enterprise is far from over. Multiple arrests are expected in the coming days. The screen cut to footage of the old estate. Yellow crime scene tape, agents hauling boxes of evidence. Then a photo of Kyle appeared. Kale Juneau, current head of the family, remains at large. Federal investigators have issued a warrant for his arrest in connection with... Ruth shut it off. Her hand shook. A warrant. They were hunting him. She looked back at Kyle. His face was pale, slick with sweat. The bandage on his side was soaked through again. He needed a hospital. But hospitals meant records. Records meant questions. Questions meant handcuffs. Ruth stood, paced, tried to think. They'd won. Adrian was in custody. The evidence was out. So why did it feel like they were losing? Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Hello? Mrs. Juneau. The voice was smooth, familiar. Victor. Ruth's chest tightened. You're alive. Barely. He coughed, the sound wet and painful. Listen carefully. I don't have much time. What happened? Where are you? Hospital. Under guard. The feds are calling me a cooperating witness, he paused. They know everything, Ruth. The business. The operations. All of it. What are they going to do? They're going to dismantle the family, seize the assets, arrest anyone connected. Another cough. Including Kyle. Ruth's stomach dropped. He didn't do anything. He's the head of a criminal organization. That's enough. Victor's voice softened. You need to run, both of you, tonight, before they find you. Run where? Anywhere. Just go. Ruth closed her eyes. What about my father? Silence. Victor? They have him. The world tilted. What do you mean they have him? The feds pulled him from the panic room. He's being held as a material witness. Victor's voice was heavy. They're using him to draw you out. Ruth's legs gave out. She sank against the wall. They're going to arrest me. If you turn yourself in, yes. And if I don't, they'll charge your father as an accessory. He'll go to prison. Ruth's vision blurred. This isn't fair. He didn't do anything. None of this is fair, Victor exhaled shakily. But that's the reality. You can run and save yourself, or you can surrender and save him. Ruth pressed her palm against her forehead. There has to be another way. There isn't. I'm sorry. The line went dead. Ruth stared at the phone. Her father, in federal custody, because of her. Behind her, Cale stirred. Who was that? She turned. He was sitting up, one hand pressed to his side. Victor. The feds have my father. Cale's expression hardened. Of course they do. They're using him as bait. If I don't turn myself in, they'll charge him. And if you do, you'll go to prison. Ruth nodded. Cale swung his legs off the cot, stood, swayed. Ruth grabbed his arm. You need to sit down. I need to think. He pulled free, moved to the window, stared out at the city lights. There's nothing to think about, Ruth said. I have to turn myself in. No. Kyle, they want me, not you. He turned to face her. You surrender, they'll use you to get to me, and then we're both locked up. So what do we do? Cale's jaw tightened. We make a deal. With who? The feds. Ruth stared at him. You want to cooperate? I want to survive. He crossed to her. We give them what they want. Information, names, everything, in exchange for immunity. They'll never go for it. They might, if we offer them something big enough. Ruth frowned. Like what? Cale's eyes darkened. The entire network. Every operation. Every connection the family has. Ruth's breath caught. You'd destroy it all? I'd burn it to the ground if it meant keeping you safe. The words hung between them. Ruth searched his face, looking for the lie, the angle, finding only exhaustion and something that looked dangerously close to desperation. You mean that? She whispered. Yes. Why? Kyle didn't answer right away. He just looked at her, really looked at her. Because somewhere between hating you and needing you, he said quietly, I stopped being able to tell the difference. Ruth's chest tightened. She wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Cale turned away. We need a lawyer, someone who can negotiate with the feds. Do you know anyone? One person, Rebecca Tan. She's handled cases like this before. If anyone can get us a deal, it's her. Can you trust her? I don't know, but we're out of options. Why? Rebecca Tan's office was in a high-rise downtown, glass and steel, clean, professional. They arrived just after midnight. Kyle had called ahead. She was waiting. Rebecca was in her 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She studied them as they walked in. Kyle pale and bleeding, Ruth exhausted and terrified. You look like hell, she said. Thanks, Kyle muttered. Rebecca gestured to the chairs across from her desk. Sit, talk. They sat. Kyle laid it out. The arrest, the warrant, the evidence, the offer. Rebecca listened without interrupting. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair. You're asking me to negotiate a cooperation agreement with the feds. Yes. For both of you. Yes. In exchange for full immunity. Yes. Rebecca was silent for a long moment. Then she laughed. You're insane, but... Kyle's jaw tightened. Can you do it or not? Oh, I can do it, but it's going to cost you everything. She tapped her pen against the desk. The feds don't give immunity for free. They'll want names, locations, bank accounts, every dirty secret the family's ever buried. I know. And once you give it to them, there's no taking it back. You'll be marked a traitor. Every criminal in the city will want you dead. I know. Rebecca studied him. Why are you doing this? Cale glanced at Ruth. Because I don't have a choice. Rebecca's eyes shifted to Ruth. And you? You're okay with this? Ruth's hands tightened in her lap. If it saves my father, yes. Rebecca nodded slowly. All right. I'll reach out to the federal prosecutor, see if they're willing to talk. How long will that take? A day, maybe 2. Kyle stood. We don't have 2 days. Then you'd better hope they're motivated. Rebecca stood as well. In the meantime, stay out of sight. Don't contact anyone. And for God's sake, get that wound looked at before you bleed out. Book. They left the office and drove to a motel on the edge of the city. Cheap. Anonymous. The kind of place that didn't ask questions. Kyle paid cash. They climbed the stairs to a second-floor room. Inside, it smelled like cigarettes and mildew. The bed sagged in the middle. The TV didn't work. Perfect. Ruth locked the door, drew the curtains. Kyle sank onto the bed, wincing. "Let me see," Ruth said. She lifted his shirt. The wound was worse, inflamed, angry red streaks radiating outward. Infection. "You need antibiotics." "I need a lot of things." Ruth grabbed the first aid kit they'd brought, found antiseptic, gauze. She cleaned the wound as gently as she could. Kale hissed through his teeth but didn't pull away. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "For what?" "For all of this. If I hadn't—" "Don't." Kale grabbed her wrist. "None of this is your fault. Isn't it? You married me to settle a debt, and now you're losing everything because of it." Kale's grip tightened. "I'm not losing everything. I'm choosing what matters." Ruth's throat burned. "I don't understand you. That makes two of us." He released her wrist. Ruth finished bandaging the wound, sat back. For a long moment they didn't speak. Then Kyle broke the silence. "When this is over," he said quietly, "what are you going to do?" Ruth blinked. "What do you mean?" "Your father will be free. You'll have immunity. You can go anywhere, do anything." He looked at her. "So what will you do?" Ruth hadn't thought that far ahead. "I don't know," she admitted. "You could go back to translating, start over somewhere new." "Maybe." "You could disappear, change your name, pretend none of this ever happened." Ruth studied his face. "Is that what you want me to do?" Kyle didn't answer. "What about you?" she asked. "What are you going to do?" He smiled faintly, bitterly. "Assuming I survive? I don't know. The family's gone, the business is gone. Everything I've ever known is gone. So you start over too. It's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because people like me don't get second chances." Ruth reached out, took his hand. "Maybe you do," she said softly. Kale stared at their joined hands. "You're the strangest person I've ever met," he said. "Coming from you, I'll take that as a compliment." He almost smiled. Then his phone buzzed. "Rebecca." Kale answered. "Talk to me." He listened. His expression shifted, darkened. "When?" A pause. "All right, we'll be there." He hung up. "What is it?" Ruth asked. "The feds agreed to meet, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Relief flooded through her. "That's good, right?" "Maybe." Kale's jaw tightened. "Or it's a trap." They didn't sleep. Ruth lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, while Kyle sat by the window, watching the parking lot. At 6 a.m., they left. The meeting was at a federal building downtown. Gray concrete, American flags, armed guards at every entrance. Rebecca met them outside. "You ready?" she asked. Ruth nodded. Kale said nothing. They went through security, metal detectors, pat-downs, ID checks. Then they were led to a conference room on the third floor. Inside, two people waited. A man in his 50s, suit, tired eyes, federal prosecutor, and a woman in her 30s, sharp, cold, FBI. Rebecca made introductions. "This is Assistant U.S. Attorney David Marsh and Special Agent Lisa Chen." Marsh gestured to the chairs. "Please, sit." They sat. Marsh folded his hands on the table. "Let's get to the point. You want immunity. We want information. So convince me why I should make this deal." Kale leaned forward. "Because I can give you the entire Juno operation, every business, every account, every person on the payroll. We already have most of that from Adrian's records. Adrian's records are incomplete. He didn't know half of what my father built." Kale's voice was steady, cold. "I do." Agent Chen spoke up. "And why should we believe you?" "Because I have nothing left to lose." Marsh studied him. "What about her?" He nodded at Ruth. "What's her role in all this?" "She's innocent," Kyle said. "She was forced into this marriage. She had no knowledge of the family's activities." "That's not what our investigation suggests." Ruth's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" Agent Chen pulled out a folder, slid photos across the table. Ruth stared. Photos of her. At the warehouse, holding a gun. At the estate, running with Kyle. At the old Juno mansion, standing behind Kale during the meeting. You were present at multiple crime scenes, Chen said. You participated in an armed assault. You aided and abetted a fugitive. Ruth's pulse hammered. I was trying to save my father. That may be true, but from where we're sitting, you're an accomplice. She's not, Kyle said sharply. I forced her to come with me. She had no choice. That's not what the evidence shows. Marsh raised a hand. Enough. Here's the deal. Kale cooperates fully, provides testimony, helps us dismantle the organization. In exchange, we offer reduced charges, not immunity. That's not good enough, Rebecca said. It's the best you're going to get. What about Ruth? Marsh's expression didn't change. She'll be charged as an accessory, but if she cooperates as well, we can recommend leniency. Ruth's world tilted, charged, prison. No, Kyle said. That's not acceptable. It's not a negotiation. Then we walk. Kale stood. Sit down, Mr. Juno. Make me. Marsh's eyes hardened. If you walk out that door, we arrest you both, right now. No deal. No leniency, just handcuffs and a cell. Kale didn't sit. Ruth grabbed his arm. Kale, please. He looked down at her. She saw the fury in his eyes, the helplessness. They're screwing us, he said quietly. I know, but we don't have a choice. For a long moment, Kyle stood frozen. Then he sat. Marsh nodded. Smart. Now let's talk specifics. The negotiation took 3 hours. By the end, Ruth's head pounded and her hands shook. The deal was simple, brutal. Kyle would provide full cooperation, testimony, evidence, everything. In exchange, he'd serve 5 years in a federal facility. Reduced from 20, Ruth would plead guilty to accessory charges, serve 2 years, reduced from 10. Her father would be released immediately. All charges dropped. It wasn't fair, but it was survival. Do we have a deal? Marsh asked. Kyle looked at Ruth. She nodded. We have a deal, Kale said. Marsh stood, extended his hand. Kale shook it. Agent Chen pulled out handcuffs. What are you doing? Rebecca demanded. Taking them into custody, Chen said. Standard procedure. That wasn't part of the agreement. The agreement says they cooperate. It doesn't say they stay free while doing it. Chen moved toward Kyle. He didn't resist. She cuffed him. Read him his rights. Then she turned to Ruth. Ruth stood, held out her hands. The metal was cold against her wrists. Ruth Juno, you're under arrest for conspiracy, aiding and abetting, and accessory to kidnapping. The words echoed in Ruth's head. Under arrest. It was real. Chen led them out of the conference room, down the hallway, into an elevator. Ruth's heart hammered. Her vision blurred. This was it. She was going to prison. The elevator doors opened. They stepped into the lobby. And then, gunfire. Glass shattered. People screamed. Chen shoved Ruth to the ground. Get down! Ruth hit the floor hard. Her cuffed hand slammed against the tile. More shots. Closer now. She looked up. Men in masks, armed, moving through the lobby. Kyle! Ruth screamed. He was on the ground 10 feet away, Chen covering him. One of the masked men raised his gun, aimed at Kyle. Time slowed. Ruth saw it happening, saw the finger tightening on the trigger. No! She threw herself forward. The gun fired. Pain exploded through her shoulder. She hit the ground, hard. The world spun. Kale's voice, distant, frantic. Ruth! Hands grabbed her, lifted her. She tried to focus, couldn't. Everything was red, and then darkness. Kicken. Ruth woke to beeping. Steady, rhythmic. Her eyes fluttered open. White ceiling, fluorescent lights. The smell of antiseptic. Hospital. She tried to sit up. Pain lanced through her shoulder. Easy. She turned her head. Kyle sat beside the bed, handcuffed to the chair, pale, exhausted, but alive. You're awake, he said. Ruth's throat was dry. What happened? You got shot. I know that. After. The feds took down the shooters, Adrian's people. Last-ditch attempt to kill me. His jaw tightened. You stepped in front of me. Again. Ruth closed her eyes. I'm an idiot. You're the bravest person I know. She opened her eyes, looked at him. Is it over? Kyle nodded. Adrian's people are done. The feds have everything. It's over. Ruth exhaled shakily. My father? Released 2 hours ago. He's safe. Relief washed through her. And us? Kale's expression darkened. The deal still stands. I go to prison. You go to prison. For how long? 5 years for me. 2 for you. Ruth stared at the ceiling. 2 years. She'd never see Kyle again. Not really. By the time she got out, he'd still have 3 years left. I'm sorry, Kyle said quietly. For what? For dragging you into this. For ruining your life. Ruth turned to look at him. You didn't ruin it. Ruth, you saved it. She reached out, took his cuffed hand. I was barely surviving before, translating documents, living in a shoebox. No purpose. No future. She squeezed his fingers. You gave me something to fight for. Kyle's eyes glistened. You're insane, he whispered. Maybe. He leaned forward, pressed his forehead against hers. When you get out, he said, what are you going to do? Ruth smiled faintly. I don't know. Maybe I'll wait for you. That's a long time. I've got nothing but time. Kyle pulled back, looked at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, she saw tears in his eyes. I don't deserve you, he said. Probably not. But I'm not letting you go. Good. The door opened. Agent Chen stepped in. Time's up. Kale stood. His hand slipped from Ruth's. Chen unlocked his cuffs from the chair, recuffed him. Wait, Ruth said. Where are you taking him? Federal holding. He'll be transferred to a facility within the week. Kale looked back at her. Ruth tried to memorize his face, the way he stood, the way he looked at her. I'll see you soon, she said. Promise? Promise. Chen led him to the door. He stopped, looked back one last time. Ruth. Yeah? Thank you. For what? For choosing me. And then he was gone. Ruth lay back against the pillow. Her shoulder throbbed, her chest ached, but deep inside, beneath the pain and the fear and the exhaustion, there was something else, something she hadn't felt in years. Hope, the kind that didn't break, the kind that survived. And as the machines beeped and the hospital hummed and the world kept turning outside her window, Ruth Calder closed her eyes and smiled, because this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. 6 weeks later, Ruth stood in a courtroom. Her shoulder still ached. The scar would never fully fade. But she stood straight, head high. The judge read her sentence. 2 years in a federal correctional facility, eligible for parole after 18 months. The gavel fell. Ruth didn't flinch. Marshals moved forward, cuffed her, led her out. In the gallery, her father sat, tears streaming down his face. She mouthed 2 words. I'm okay. He nodded. And then she was gone. Prison was exactly what she expected. Cold, gray, loud. But Ruth adapted. She kept her head down, followed the rules, made no enemies. And every week she wrote letters. To her father, to Rebecca, to Kyle. He wrote back. Short letters, careful, monitored, but they were his. I'm surviving, counting days, thinking of you. Ruth held those letters like lifelines. Months passed, then a year. Ruth's parole hearing came. She sat across from 3 board members, answered their questions, showed remorse. They deliberated, approved. 18 months, exactly. She was released on a Tuesday. Her father waited outside the gates. They hugged, cried. What now? He asked. Ruth looked at the sky, free, open. Now, she said, I wait. Marked. 3 years later. Ruth stood outside a federal prison, different from hers, bigger, harsher. She clutched the release papers in her hand. The gates opened, and Kyle walked out, thinner, older, scarred, but alive. He saw her, stopped. For a moment, neither moved. Then Ruth ran. She crashed into him. He caught her, held her tight. You waited, he whispered. I promised. Kale pulled back, looked at her. What now? Ruth smiled. Now, she said, we build something new. And for the first time in 5 years, Kale smiled back. Together? Together. They walked toward the car. The sun was setting. The city stretched ahead. And whatever came next, they'd face it side by side. Not as enemies, not as prisoners, but as survivors. And that, Ruth knew, was enough. The apartment was smaller than Ruth expected. One bedroom, kitchenette, a window that looked out over the highway. But it was theirs. Kyle set down the last box, stood in the center of the empty living room, hands in his pockets. "Not much," he said. Ruth closed the door behind her. "It's enough." He looked at her, really looked at her. 5 years had changed them both, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. Gray threading through his hair, scars, visible and invisible, that would never fully heal. But they were here, alive, free. "I don't know how to do this," Kyle said quietly. Ruth crossed to him. "Do what?" "This. Normal life. Waking up without guards. Going to sleep without watching my back." He exhaled shakily. "I've spent my entire life in that world, and now it's gone." Ruth took his hand. "Then we figure it out together." Cale's fingers tightened around hers. "What if I can't?" "You will." "How do you know?" "Because you didn't survive 5 years in prison just to give up now." Cale looked down at their joined hands. "You have more faith in me than I do." "Someone has to." He almost smiled. Then his phone buzzed. He pulled it out. His expression darkened. "What is it?" Ruth asked. "Rebecca. She wants to meet." Bats. They met at a cafe downtown. Rebecca sat in the corner booth, 2 coffees already waiting. She looked older, too, tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "You're out," she said as they sat. "Barely," Cale replied. Rebecca slid a folder across the table. "You need to see this." Cale opened it. Inside were legal documents, financial statements, property deeds. He frowned. "What am I looking at?" "What's left of the Juno Empire." Rebecca leaned back. "The Fed seized most of it, liquidated the assets, distributed restitution to victims." "So there's nothing." "I didn't say that." Rebecca tapped the folder. "There are 3 properties they couldn't touch, purchased under shell companies your father set up decades ago. Legitimate businesses, clean titles." Ruth leaned forward. "What kind of properties?" "A warehouse, a small Saul office building, and a restaurant." Rebecca's eyes shifted to Kyle. "They're worth about $2 million, combined." Cale stared at the papers. "My father left these?" "Technically, they were never part of the criminal enterprise, so the feds had no claim." Rebecca pulled out another document. "And according to his will, they go to you." Cale's jaw tightened. "I don't want them." "Then sell them. Use the money to start over." "It's blood money." "No." Rebecca's voice was firm. "It's survival money. Your father may have been a lot of things, but he made sure you'd have something when this was all over." Kyle pushed the folder back. "I don't want anything from him." Ruth placed her hand on his arm. "Kyle, wait." He looked at her. "We need this," she said quietly. "We have nothing, no jobs, no savings. This is a chance built on everything I'm trying to leave behind. Then use it to build something better." Ruth's eyes held his. "Take what he left and turn it into something good. That's how you win." Kyle stared at her, then at the folder. Finally, he pulled it back. "What would I even do with it?" he asked. Rebecca smiled faintly. "That's up to you." Over the next 3 months, Kyle and Ruth rebuilt. They sold the warehouse and the office building, kept the restaurant. It was a dive. Peeling paint, broken equipment, rats in the walls. But it had potential. Kyle hired contractors. Ruth managed the finances. They worked 16-hour days, stripping the place down to the studs and building it back up. Ruth's father helped. He was older now, slower, but his hands were steady. "You're good at this," he said one afternoon, watching Ruth negotiate with a supplier. "At what?" "Running things, making decisions." He smiled. "You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for." Ruth's throat tightened. "I had to be." Her father's smile faded. "I'm sorry for what I put you through." "Dad, I mean it." He set down his tools. "I was weak, selfish, and you paid the price." Ruth looked at him, saw the regret in his eyes, the shame. "You're here now," she said. "That's what matters." Her father nodded, picked up his tools again, and they kept working. 6 months after their release, the restaurant opened. They called it Second Chances. Simple, honest. The menu was small. Comfort food. Nothing fancy. But it was good. Word spread. People came. Not because of the name, not because of the history, but because the food was worth it. Ruth worked the front, greeting customers, managing reservations. Kael worked the back, cooking, planning menus. It was hard, exhausting. Some nights they barely broke even, but it was theirs. And slowly, day by day, they built something real. 1 year after opening, Ruth stood behind the bar, wiping down glasses. The dinner rush was over. A few stragglers remained, finishing their meals. Kael emerged from the kitchen, untying his apron. "We're out of scallops," he said. "I'll order more tomorrow." He moved to the bar, poured himself a water, drank. Ruth watched him. He looked different now, lighter. The weight he'd carried for so long, the empire, the expectations, the violence, had finally lifted. "What are you staring at?" he asked. Ruth smiled. "You? Why?" "Because you look happy." Kael blinked, considered. "I think I am," he said slowly. "For the first time in my life, I think I actually am." Ruth's chest swelled. Before she could respond, the door opened. A man walked in, late 30s, expensive suit, cold eyes. Ruth's stomach dropped. She knew that look, that walk. He wasn't here for food. The man crossed to the bar, looked at Kael. "Kael Juno." Kael's expression shuddered. "Who's asking?" "Name's Eric Yang. I represent the Park family." Ruth's pulse quickened. The Park family, one of the organizations that had filled the vacuum after the Junos fell. "I don't do business anymore," Kael said flatly. "I'm not here for business." Yang glanced around the restaurant. "Nice place, quiet, respectable." "What do you want?" "Oh, wow, dude." Young leaned against the bar. "There's a problem. One of our operations got hit last week. Feds. Someone tipped them off." "And you think it was me?" "You've been cooperating with the feds for years, so yeah, I think it was you." Kael's jaw tightened. "I haven't spoken to the feds since my release. Whatever happened, it wasn't me." Yang studied him. "You expect me to believe that?" "I don't care what you believe." Yang's expression hardened. "You know what happens to snitches." Ruth stepped forward. "Get out." Yang's eyes shifted to her. "Excuse me?" "You heard me? Get out of our restaurant." Yang smiled, cold. "Or what?" "Or I call the cops." "The cops won't help you." "Maybe not, but the security cameras will." Ruth pointed to the corner. "You just threatened us. On camera. So you can leave now. Or I can make sure every news outlet in the city sees this footage." Yang's smile faded. He looked at Kael. "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," Kael said quietly. "I'm done. I'm not going back. So whatever you think I did, whatever you want, find someone else." Yang stared at him. Then he turned, walked to the door, stopped. "You're making a mistake." "I've made plenty. I'll survive one more." Yang left. The door swung shut. Ruth's hands shook. She gripped the bar to steady herself. Kael moved to her. "You okay?" "No. Are you?" "No." They stood in silence. Then Kael pulled out his phone, dialed. "Who are you calling?" Ruth asked. "Rebecca." "What?" Rebecca arrived 30 minutes later. They sat in the empty restaurant. Ruth locked the door, pulled the shades. "Tell me everything," Rebecca said. Kael recounted the conversation, Yang's accusations, the threat. Rebecca's expression darkened. "This is bad." "I didn't tip off the feds," Kael said. "I haven't had contact with them since my release." "I believe you, but that doesn't matter. If the Park family thinks you're a snitch, they'll come after you." Ruth's chest tightened. "What do we do?" "You run." "No," Kael said. "I'm not running anymore." "Then you fight, and you probably die." "There has to be another way." Rebecca was silent. Then, "There is, but you're not going to like it. Try me." Rebecca pulled out her phone, scrolled, showed them a photo. A man, 50s, graying hair, sharp suit. "Who is this?" Ruth asked. "Thomas Park, head of the Park family. Eric Yang's boss." Kael frowned. "What about him?" "He's smart, pragmatic, and he doesn't make moves without proof." Rebecca leaned forward. "If you can talk to him, convince him you're not a threat, He might call off his dogs. And if I can't, then you'd better start packing. Masa. The meeting was set for the next night. Neutral ground. A private room in a high-end hotel. Ruth insisted on coming. It's too dangerous, Kyle said. I don't care. Ruth, we're in this together, remember? Cale's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. They drove in silence. The hotel was downtown, elegant, expensive. A man met them in the lobby, led them to the elevators. Up to the 23rd floor. The private room was at the end of the hall. Inside, Thomas Park sat at a table, a glass of wine in front of him. He stood as they entered. Mr. Juno, Mrs. Juno, please, sit. They sat. Park studied them, calm, assessing. Thank you for coming, he said. I didn't think I had a choice, Kyle replied. Park smiled faintly. Everyone has a choice. The question is whether you make the smart one. And what's the smart choice here? Honesty. Park leaned back. My associate Eric came to see you, made some accusations. I want to hear your side. Kyle met his gaze. I didn't tip off the feds. I haven't spoken to them in over a year. Whatever happened to your operation, it wasn't me. Then who was it? I don't know, and I don't care. I'm out of that world. Park's eyes flicked to Ruth, then back to Kyle. You expect me to believe that? A man like you doesn't just walk away. I did. Why? Kyle hesitated. Then, because I found something worth more than power. Park raised an eyebrow. And what's that? Peace. For a long moment, Park said nothing. Then he picked up his wine, sipped. You've changed, he said finally. Yes. Prison does that. It wasn't prison. Cale glanced at Ruth. It was her. Park's eyes shifted to Ruth. You love him. It wasn't a question. Ruth didn't hesitate. Yes. Even knowing what he was? I know what he is now. That's what matters. Park studied her, then nodded slowly. All right. I believe you. Relief flooded through Ruth. However, Park continued, there's still a problem. Someone did tip off the feds, and until I find out who, people in my organization will keep looking for a scapegoat. Then find the real leak, Cale said. I intend to. But in the meantime, you need to watch your back. Are you threatening me? No, I'm warning you. Park stood. I can control my people, but there are others out there. People who remember the Juno name, who want revenge, who see you as unfinished business. Kyle stood as well. Then I'll deal with them. See that you do. Park extended his hand. Kyle shook it, and for the first time in years, Ruth felt like they might actually survive this. 3 months passed. No more threats, no more visits. The restaurant thrived. Ruth hired more staff, expanded the menu. Kyle started teaching cooking classes on weekends, kids from the neighborhood, at-risk youth, giving back. It felt right. One evening, Ruth stood in the kitchen, prepping vegetables. Cale worked beside her, chopping onions. I've been thinking, he said. About? The future. Ruth glanced at him. What about it? I want to marry you. Ruth's knife slipped. She caught it, stared at him. What? Cale set down his knife, turned to face her. We're already married, legally, but that was forced. A transaction. He took her hands. I want to do it right this time. Choose you. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Ruth's eyes burned. Kyle, you don't have to answer now. Just think about it. Ruth didn't need to think. Yes, she said. Cale blinked. Yes? Yes. I'll marry you. Again. Cale's face broke into a smile. Real. Unguarded. He pulled her into his arms, held her tight. And for the first time since this whole nightmare began, Ruth felt truly safe. They married 6 months later. Small ceremony. Just Ruth's father, Rebecca, a few close friends. No mansion, no empire, no pretense. Just two people choosing each other. Ruth wore a simple white dress. Kyle wore a suit he'd bought secondhand. They stood in a park, under a tree. The officiant asked the question. Do you take this woman to be your wife? Cale looked at Ruth. I do. And do you take this man to be your husband? Ruth smiled. I do. Then by the power vested in me. Wait, Cale said. The officiant paused. Cale turned to Ruth, took both her hands. I need to say something. Ruth's chest tightened. Okay. I destroyed your life. I forced you into a nightmare. I took everything from you. Kyle, let me finish. His voice shook. But somehow, you took that nightmare and turned it into something real, something good. You saved me, in every way a person can be saved. Tears streamed down Ruth's face. I don't deserve you, Kyle continued. I probably never will, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. Ruth's hands tightened around his. You don't have to try, she whispered. You already did. Kyle leaned forward, pressed his forehead against hers. I love you, he said. I love you too. The officiant cleared his throat. You may kiss the bride? Kyle kissed her, and the small crowd erupted in applause. 5 years later. Ruth stood in the restaurant, morning sunlight streaming through the windows. The place had grown. They'd expanded, added a second location across town. Kyle was in the kitchen, preparing for the lunch rush. Ruth checked the reservations. Full, as always. The door opened. A woman walked in, late 20s, nervous. We're not open yet, Ruth said gently, but we will be in an hour. I'm not here to eat. The woman hesitated. I'm here about the job posting. Ruth straightened. You're applying for the sous chef position? Yes. Ruth studied her, saw something in her eyes. Desperation. Hope. She knew that look. Have you worked in kitchens before? Ruth asked. A little, but I'm a fast learner. Why do you want this job? The woman's hands twisted together. Because I need a second chance. Ruth's chest tightened. What's your name? Mina. All right, Mina. Wait here. Ruth went to the kitchen, found Kyle. There's a woman out front, applying for the sous chef job. Kyle looked up. And? I think we should hire her. You haven't even seen her cook. I don't need to. Kyle set down his knife, studied Ruth's face. You see yourself in her, he said quietly. Maybe. Kyle dried his hands. All right, let's talk to her. They went out together. Mina stood by the door, fidgeting. Kyle extended his hand. I'm Kyle. This is Ruth. We own the place. Mina shook his hand. Mina. Ruth says you're looking for a second chance. Mina nodded. Can you tell us why? Mina's eyes dropped. I made mistakes. Bad ones. I've been trying to get my life back together, but no one wants to hire someone with a record. Kyle and Ruth exchanged a glance. What were you convicted of? Kyle asked. Theft. Possession. I did 18 months. Kyle nodded slowly. When did you get out? 3 months ago. And you've been looking for work since then? Yes. Kyle crossed his arms. Here's the deal. You start tomorrow, 6 a.m., prep work, minimum wage to start. But if you show up on time, work hard, and don't cause problems, we'll give you a real shot. Mina's eyes widened. You're serious? We don't joke about second chances. Mina's face crumpled. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. Ruth handed her a tissue. Don't thank us yet. This is hard work. I don't care. I just need a chance. Then you've got one. Mina left, smiling through her tears. Ruth watched her go. Kale put his arm around her shoulders. You're too soft. You hired her too. Because you asked me to. Ruth leaned into him. We're doing good here, real good. Yeah, we are. They stood in the doorway, watching the city wake up. Do you ever miss it? Ruth asked. The power, the empire. Kale was silent for a moment, then, no, that life cost too much. And this one? He looked down at her. This one's worth everything. 7 years later. Ruth sat in the restaurant's office, reviewing finances. The business had grown beyond anything she'd imagined. 3 locations now, a catering division, a foundation that provided job training for ex-convicts. Second chances had become something real. A knock on the door. Come in, Ruth called. Kale stepped inside. He looked tired, but happy. Someone's here to see you, he said. Who? Come see. Ruth followed him to the dining room. A man stood by the window, tall, well-dressed. He turned. Ruth's breath caught. Adrian. Older, thinner, gray streaking his hair, but unmistakably him. "Hello, Ruth," he said. Ruth's hand went to her phone. "I'm calling the police." "Wait." Adrian raised his hands. "Please, just hear me out." Cale stepped forward. "You have 60 seconds." Adrian nodded. "I got out 3 months ago. Parole. Good behavior." "Congratulations," Kyle said flatly. "Now leave." "I'm not here to cause trouble. Adrian's voice cracked. "I wanted to apologize." Ruth stared. "Apologize? For everything. The kidnapping, the threats, the war." Adrian looked at Kyle. "You were right. About all of it. I was consumed by greed, by jealousy, and I destroyed everything because of it." Kale's expression didn't change. "Why are you telling us this?" "Because I spent 7 years in prison thinking about what I did, and I realized you were always the better man. You tried to protect the family. I tried to destroy it." Adrian's eyes glistened. "I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." Silence. Ruth looked at Kyle. She saw the conflict in his eyes, the anger, the pain, but also something else, understanding. "What are you going to do now?" Kyle asked quietly. Adrian shrugged. "Find a job. Start over. If anyone will hire me." Kale was silent. Then, "We're looking for a dishwasher." Adrian's eyes widened. "What?" "Dishwasher, night shift, minimum wage, hard work." Adrian stared at him. "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a chance." Kale's voice was steady. "What you do with it is up to you." Adrian's face crumpled. I don't know what to say. Say yes or no." Adrian looked at Ruth. She saw the question in his eyes. She thought about the woman, Mina, they'd hired years ago, who now managed their second location. She thought about her own second chance, and she nodded. Adrian turned back to Kyle. "Yes, I'll take it." "Then you start Monday, 6 a.m. Don't be late." Adrian's hand shook. "Thank you. I won't let you down." "Don't thank me. Just prove you've changed." Adrian nodded, left. The door swung shut. Ruth turned to Kyle. "Are you sure about this?" "No, but neither were you when you married me." Ruth smiled. "Fair point." Kale pulled her close. "We were given second chances. Maybe it's time we start giving them to others." Ruth rested her head against his chest. "When did you get so wise?" "Prison?" She laughed. And in that moment, standing in the restaurant they'd built from ashes, Ruth realized something. They'd won. Not because they'd destroyed their enemies, not because they'd reclaimed power, but because they'd chosen to build instead of burn, to forgive instead of hate, to live instead of just survive. And that was the greatest victory of all. 10 years later, Ruth stood in the kitchen of their fourth location, hands covered in flour. She was teaching a cooking class. A dozen students, all ex-convicts, watched as she demonstrated how to make bread. "The key is patience," she said. "You can't rush it. You have to let it rise. Give it time." One of the students raised his hand. "How do you know when it's ready?" Ruth smiled. "You'll feel it. Trust your instincts." The door opened. Kyle walked in, holding a small bundle. Ruth's heart swelled. Their daughter, 6 months old, dark hair, her father's eyes. "Someone wanted to see Mommy," Kyle said. Ruth washed her hands, took the baby. The students watched, smiling. "What's her name?" one asked. "Hope," Ruth said, because that's what she represented. Not a fairy tale, not redemption, but the promise that even from the darkest places, something beautiful could grow. Ruth looked at Kyle. He smiled. And in his eyes, she saw everything they'd been through. The pain, the fear, the violence, but also the healing, the growth, the love. They'd built a life from nothing, a family from ashes, a future from ruins. And as Ruth held her daughter close, watching Kyle help the students knead their dough, she realized this was enough, more than enough. This was everything. 15 years later, Ruth stood on the balcony of their home, watching the sunset. The city stretched below. lights flickering to life as the darkness fell. Behind her, voices drifted from inside. Laughter, conversations. Kyle emerged, carrying 2 glasses of wine. He handed her one. "Dinner's almost ready." "Who's cooking?" "Hope." She insisted. Ruth smiled. Their daughter was 16 now, fierce, independent, everything they'd hoped she'd be. "She's good," Ruth said. "She learned from the best." They stood in comfortable silence, sipping wine. "Do you ever think about it?" Kyle asked. "How we started?" "Sometimes." "Any regrets?" Ruth considered. The forced marriage, the violence, the prison. It had been hell, but it had led her here, to this man, this family, this life. "No," she said finally. "No regrets." Kael's hand found hers. "Me neither." They watched the sun sink below the horizon, and as darkness settled over the city, Ruth realized something. They'd survived, not just the war, not just the aftermath, but the hardest part of all, learning to live, learning to love, learning to let go of the past and build a future. It hadn't been easy, it hadn't been perfect, but it had been real. And that was all that mattered. Inside, Hope called out, "Dinner's ready." Kael squeezed Ruth's hand. "Shall we?" Ruth smiled. "Let's go." They walked inside together, into the warmth, the light, the love they'd built with their own hands, and as the door closed behind them, the story ended, not with a dramatic flourish, not with a grand revelation, but with something simple, something honest, something true, a family, sitting down to dinner, together. And in the end, that was the only victory that mattered. The end. In the darkest moments, when everything falls apart, we have a choice. We can let it destroy us, or we can take the broken pieces and build something new. Ruth and Kael chose to build, and in doing so, they discovered that survival isn't just about enduring, it's about transforming, about choosing hope over hate, love over fear, and second chances over vengeance. Because the truest measure of strength isn't how hard you can fight, it's how well you can rebuild. And sometimes, the greatest empires aren't built on power. They're built on the quiet, relentless decision to keep trying, one day at a time, together.